welcome to another interesting episode of Inside Out. And this week we have a topic that I have often wondered about. Do we recognize as a nation, as a people, our fallen heroes? Today we'll be talking about that issue, fallen heroes. We want to see whether the people who have sacrificed of themselves, their lives, giving up on being with their families, whether the country has appreciated them, or people who have even done really great things. Does Nigeria as a nation come back to acknowledge and recognize them for the service that they have given to the nation? I remember the first stanza of the national anthem, I think, that says, "The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain." Is that statement true? And I think we have a panel of people here who will help us do justice to this. And I'm hoping that at the end of this recording, not just government, but those of us as Nigerians, as individuals, will go away better educated and maybe behave a bit better. I don't know, but I'm hoping something will happen. And I'd like to do my introductions from my left. Please help me welcome. He's a retired major in the army, retired Major Kuforiji. As you can tell, he used to be a member of the armed forces. Sir, you're welcome to Inside Out. Help us welcome Dr. Fadikpe Akinniyi Emmanuel to Inside Out. Next to him is, he's a pharmacist, pharmacist Dozie Lawrence. He had a near-death experience, I think, yes, as a youth copper serving in Bauchi, because a lot of people don't think about the coppers, but they have been also victims of this. And he's going to be sharing that experience with us and maybe telling us a bit more about what coppers have gone through and some who have lost their lives. Please help me welcome pharmacist Dozie Lawrence. Now, when I do all of these things, I always like to be educated about what the law says, if there is anything. What does our Nigerian constitution have any provision for it? Does the law have any provision for this? Is there anything that should change? Even as human beings, is there anything we should be advocating for? Maybe to their House of Assembly. I mean, if presidents can be getting salaries for the rest of their lives, and Senate heads and people like that, what about fallen heroes? What happens to them? And for that reason, we have here a civil lawyer, Barrister Taiwo Onoyinka. You're welcome to Inside Out. Incidentally, I'm just going to start with pharmacist Dozie Lawrence. Let me start with you because I want to hear what you experienced. You said you served in Bauchi?
That's right.
When was this?
It's 2011.
2011. Precisely. What happened?
Well, we got posted. We were in camp, normal 3 weeks. And then afterwards, we were posted to our several stations, our place of primary assignment, yeah. Afterwards, after the election, during the elections, it was pretty
2011 was an election year?
Yes, it was. Okay. That brought in President Goodluck Jonathan.
Yeah.
Yes. So even before the elections, there was tension, especially in the northern region. So we were being very careful. Even coppers were used as ad hoc staff, yes.
As ad hoc staff for
Good.
Election.
And we were being very careful because we knew that it was more of a divided thing, you know, because of his opponent and then President Goodluck Jonathan being from the south, you know. We, the coppers, were told to go into the interiors to register people, you know. And then because of that assignment we're given, a lot of us were put in danger spots because when we're doing the registration, they would bring underage people and we would be, you know, knives we put on people's necks, you know, to register people who were not...
Sorry, explain that again. They'll bring children, babies,
in fact. to thumbprint to make sure they are registered, just to be sure they have the number, and that made a lot of us, scared of the outcome. We're thinking, what if after all these, it goes the other way and they don't get to win, After
so you couldn't say no?
We couldn't say no because it was most times when you have a cutlass on your neck, what do you do?
Cutlass from whom? Didn't you have police protection?
No police protection at all. No police
protection.
protection.
So as coppers, you were just sent out?
We're sent out.
In your coppers uniform with nothing?
With nothing.
To go and register people?
Exactly. And that was the major mistake the government made, in putting people's lives. A lot of the coppers who were there, were helpless. But we had to do it. For me, I had to, tell my friends. I told my friends that, hey, after the first batch, after the registration, I told them, hey, for the elections, I won't be there because I was afraid of the outcome. In fact, to be very sincere, I don't want to sound so spooky, but I started having dreams. I have dreams of where people's legs are cut off, seeing blood. And I called, because I was actually an executive of the NCCF, the Nigerian Coppers Christian Fellowship at that time. I told the president, I said, this is what we need to do. He said, okay, we'll pray about it, but people should go do their civic duties. We got out, everybody went out. I had a friend, one of the casualties, Ayo, to be precise, was my roommate.
What do you mean by casualties?
One of the people who were killed.
People were killed?
Yes. In fact, he was my roommate. He was sick at the time when the election were going on. And I told him, I said, Ayo, I'm a pharmacist. I'm handling your case. Stay here. Let me treat you. Let me give you the medications that you need so you get well. He said, let me just go. Let me do what I have to do. Okay, he said he won't go to the election. You just go there to the place, register his name, and then find a way of going away so he doesn't get in a danger spot. I said, okay, fine. But he went. This particular guy was actually at a primary school reading when the whole thing broke out. Now, when it broke out was the moment, that night when the elections results were announced. That was when they started attacking. And it was early in the morning. They came out en masse and they would just break into, all they do was they break into the Coppers Lodge and anybody they see with machetes and clubs and everything, they machete people's heads.
They came to do that inside your lodge? He was killed inside the lodge?
He wasn't killed inside it. I'm talking about other people. But for my friend, he was at that point where he was reading somewhere when he heard of the crisis. So his friend called him and said, hey, please run to the nearest police station. And that's the normal thing to do. We're told as coppers that if there's any crisis, run to the nearest police station for protection. Now he ran there, not knowing that that particular police station, which had the greatest number of casualties from the reports, was being attacked. They were surrounded. The police station was surrounded. The people inside, the policemen were just shooting in the air. Instead of, they were trying to scare off the people around them. But at some point, after shooting for a while, the armor they had finished. So at that point, the people outside started attacking. In fact, they threw in fire into the police station to burn down the police station, thereby chasing out the people inside. Whilst they were running, these people were being cut down.
Wow.
In fact, a particular police lady was beheaded that day, and my friend Ayo was macheted and he was killed. I only had to see the picture of his body. He was killed. My other friend, who was also my schoolmate, Ukoma Ikechukwu, actually, that's the one a lot of people knew about because he posted some things on Facebook just before he died.
Wow. So you lost quite a few people then?
I lost 3 of my friends. 3 of my friends, Anselm, IK, and Ayo.
Where were you at this time?
I was at Yelwa in the family house. We were all scared because I didn't go. Yelwa was predominantly Christian, so a lot of us, in fact, the people there they met the Seriki so that they could attack us. But the Seriki stopped them. But with all this happening, we had to contact Ayo's family We didn't know where he was. We tried his number. We tried contacting some of our friends. We're not getting any reports from them. So his family sent someone.
So let me ask this now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what you're saying, we know that coppers died during elections and all that. What happened? I mean, what happened after that? They died in active service
They died
to the nation.
Yeah.
What happened?
After that period, all we heard was the government called the families and gave them 5 million naira and said one graduate in their family would, be sponsored, something like that. After that time, they told us that a 22-man committee was set, by the government to look into the matter to make sure it doesn't happen again. After that period, nothing happened. Nothing. There was no report.
So
in fact,
in replacement for the life was 5 million naira. That's what you're saying.
That was what.
They bought the life for 5 million.
And then after, for me personally, I started an online campaign on social media for just during these elections, just to remember my friends, because it was as if after that period they were forgotten. Nothing was done.
The NYSC, what did the NYSC do? What about those of you who even were friends and family of these people? What?
Can I say something?
Yes.
The focus was more on the people who died. They died, but there were hundreds of people that were injured. I was a pharmacist. When we were rescued from my lodge to the SSS camp in that state, now we got in there, I was part of the medical team handling a lot of people. In fact, there was a young man who his feet were so scalded, bruised. Why? Because he was running on hot sand.
Hot sand?
Yes. He ran so much that his feet got so injured. And while running, he had to jump into a well, a dry well.
Wow. Just
to save his life. Even when he was in that dry well, they were still stoning him in there.
Wow.
He said to me, I don't know how I survived it. It was just God. Then one Hausa man came out and begged them that, okay, don't worry, he will kill them, you kill him for them. Just to drive them away. But he brought him out, treated him a bit, and then sent him to the hospital. That was what these people faced. There was a young lady who actually went insane because the machete cut affected her brain. It actually cut into her brain and affected the brain center that affected her sanity. Now that's... Where is she now? Nobody heard anything from her. Nobody heard anything about them.
Wow.
There were a lot of people that were injured. Some people came out with machete cut. They had to do a quick stitching that was very bad. And all these things, nothing from the NYSC. Nothing was said by them. Nothing was said by the government. And these people were totally forgotten. Let me talk to you, retired Major Kufuoriji.
Well, now it's a bit better. I know that online, once in a while, we see another fallen hero. Before, we didn't even have any idea. Let me ask you, as a retired military man, what it is like. A lot of us stay here as civilians, and we have never been on the battlefront. What he's describing as just a copper is probably what soldiers see daily. And even as a copper, saying the story he has just said, I can't imagine it. Let me ask you, sir, as a soldier, what has been your experience?
Thank you so much. I want to start by thanking you for inviting me here. From the readings of my calculations here, I'm supposed to be the oldest person around.
Yes, sir.
I thank God for that opportunity. This is Nigeria, one of the countries or nations in Africa. I was traveling from New York to Las Vegas, which is about 7 hours internal flight. Suddenly, there was this veteran, somebody who fought the war and was coming on the plane. The one was a bit elderly. Before he boarded, What experience you had was what I observed myself. When he was already on the plane, like your experience too, the pilot announced.
Just that one man?
Just one man. And we started applause. Bah, bah, bah,
You were
bah,
joining
bah.
them in the applause even though you were...
Yes. Now I remember my home country, Nigeria. And I said, when is Nigeria going to land? I remember somebody who derives at school. Sometimes if he's lucky, he gets better mark than the person that he derives at. Or somebody who copies. But we have people to really copy, to really behave better. Some people will be saying, they have been there for 200 years, 2,000 years. But these are people that have toiled and they have really made a wonderful life for themselves. The man that sat by my left, I think left or right, he saw me, I was murmuring. So he now asks, "Sir, are you an African?" Well, yes, I'm not a black African. I'm a black American. I am an African. I am from Nigeria. Are you a soldier? Because the thing so much dragged me, went down my veins, that I now said, we have a real problem in Africa. We have more problems in Nigeria as far as the military or armed forces are concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, are you aware that Nigerian armed forces ranks 10th, number 10, the best 10 in the world?
Really?
Can you imagine? Yes.
True.
Nigerian Armed Forces ranks number 10 in the world.
10 in the world.
As at today.
As at today.
Very true.
As
Really?
at today.
True.
Let me tell you, we have good army, wonderful armed forces. But our problem, I will not mince word for saying this, are the civilians. Like
Please
you
say
said,
that again. The problem
our
with the
problems
army
are the civilians.
are the civilians.
Civilians.
Okay, I need an explanation.
I'm happy you are in the US. Civilians gave way to soldiers just coming to work, going back to their stations. How many civilians out of you here will give way to a soldier? Yeah. You remember, I'm sorry I have to digress a little bit.
No, it's okay. We're learning.
Yes.
The idea is for the new generation to learn.
During this just concluded election, they brought faces of leopard, faces of lion, describing a man because he was a military man. That is very unkind, very callous. I'm not a politician. And for your information, I say again, but for Nigeria armed forces, there will not be Nigeria today. I stand to quote it.
But I have to ask you a question.
Please do.
Because you are accusing us.
Yes.
So for that reason, I want to say that isn't it as a result of how you carry yourself that people take you? Don't you think the military has a role to play in how they are perceived?
My dear sister, yes and no.
Okay.
The military, the armed forces, we are not trained for peace. We are trained for war. We are trained to destroy. We are not trained to manage. We are not trained to maim. And during our trainings, there is casualty standard. If you are on this training, if so number of casualties come up, the man that is training will get elevated. Somebody who has been toughened like that, my dearest sisters and brothers, to him, he doesn't value his life again.
He doesn't value his life again?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Really?
Yes. To me, that I'm alive today is not by my special by my special effort.
So you mean as soon as you entered the military, it means you have given up your life?
By the grace of God. By the grace of God. If you sign, those of you that have gone for maybe academy, defense academy exam, you must sign in the form that if you die, there's no claim. So somebody who knows he's going to die, if he does come, will he be waiting for the person that will come and kill him? The civilians, I'm sorry to say, I'm happy we are going. The last interview I had with people called me from the US. The problem we have in Nigeria, until when the civilians change orientation against the armed forces, we may not have peace in Nigeria.
What is the orientation of the
The
civilians?
orientation is soldiers became a bastardized everything. Soldiers are intruders. Soldiers and this. The development this country has now, the records we have, was masterminded by soldiers. Is it development? Is it infrastructure and whatever? To talk more or less of the civil war that we lost several souls. Do you have anything to show for fighting that civil war now, my dearest sisters and brothers? First civil war for almost 30 months. We lost very, very many souls. I know the figure, but it is not worth mentioning again. They have gone with their respective souls rest in perfect peace. Do we have anything to show for it? Calabar, they are killing. Port Harcourt, they are killing. Etc., etc. I'm happy. I'm happy God saved you, my dearest copper. Because of election. A job you want to take for a few years and get out of the place. Look at what is happening in Burundi now. One person took a whole country to ransom. All in the name of I want to be there. Until when we learn to really identify with God, that is the final arbiter. It's only God can do that. He cannot undo. Any door God shuts can never be opened by anybody.
Did you fight any wars?
By the grace of God. I fought full Nigerian civil war.
Because we hear things like, we're fighting a war and then they are wanting to sentence some soldiers to death in the middle of a war. They're saying they want to court-martial some people. As civilians, we probably can never understand that. But we also hear the soldiers complaining about poor welfare. As a civilian, I think they are justified to riot as a civilian because I don't have the military training. So do you think, if you can't treat someone who is signing off their death warrant well, I'm putting it in civilian terms. If you're asking me to go and die, at least treat me well before I die. Yeah. You cannot tell me go and die, then you do not even treat me well while I'm alive. So how will you then treat me when I die?
Thank you so much. Are you aware that, like you have Nigerian constitution, the military has its own rules and regulations that is binding on all over the military men. We call it Nigerian Act 1960. Once you violate any of the rules and regulations contained in that book, whatever happens to you is your business.
So if you cause mutiny?
If you cause mutiny, if you succeed, you become the head of state. If you fail, you should be ready to face the stake. That is what the paper says. There's nobody that commits any offense in the army that is treated under the Nigerian constitution.
So there's a separate law governing the military.
It's a pity.
So they are like a law on their own.
Yes, that is a law.
The reason why there's the uproar is because they believe that something is not right. Under the military constitution, what recourse do they have? You are supposed to always obey your boss, but the expectation also is that your boss should have your best interest at heart. That is the unwritten rule, isn't it?
My dearest sister,
Yes, sir.
I am telling you categorically, I served the Nigerian Army for 30 years. And I was in the infantry from day one to the last day. If, even as a civilian, if you commit an offense and you know you have been caught red-handed, you want to employ the services of a lawyer to defend yourself. Until when the two cases are brought before a presiding judge, that the truth will be left out of the bag. My dear sister, civilians, you people are listening to one-sided story. You do not listen to the army itself. You cannot even hear if you want to hear.
They will not be answerable to anyone.
They will not be answerable. They are not answerable to anyone except the head of state. I say again, quote me. That's why it's called the Commander-in-Chief of Nigerian Armed Forces.
Okay, that's what that means.
That is what that is all
They
about.
only report
So
to him.
if they now say 570 something, I've never had it done that they will kill 500 and something at a go. Something must be wrong somewhere. I've heard when people, remember all of you, maybe some of you are not born, when Vasta really staged a coup, the thing was uncovered, it was publicly executed. Dimka did the same thing.
Yes, I hear.
Etc., etc. That is exclusively military rule for you. There's nothing anybody can do
We have never
about
been
it.
able to understand that. There's no court. It's like they sit down in the small gathering, take a decision. Before anybody can say anything,
No, don't.
it's done.
They don't. There is a court martial. I was an officer under instruction during one court martial at 82 Division, Enugu. I was serving directly under the present General Buhari, who now said he doesn't want to answer that general again. There was a court martial, and we have lawyers at the court martial. We have advocates that really stand for both the accused, the prosecuting officers, and so on. It's a full-fledged court. The boys cannot
But it's a
be
military court.
It's a military court where you have civilian. We call the civilian advocate. He represents the civil law on any given court martial. So this, ladies and gentlemen, most of you do not know. Okay, I told you earlier on that if you commit offense, you kill anybody, whether deliberately or otherwise, and you are found guilty, even at the theater of war, you will be killed on the spot.
Wow.
When we go to the range, where we shoot, we go for annual classification, range classification. If we finish firing, if there remains one empty case of a bullet that we cannot find, nobody will go home until that bullet is found.
Let's go on a quick break. We'll be right back. Still talking about our fallen heroes. How do we treat them? How do we remember them? What do we do about our fallen heroes? And we were talking to retired Major Kuforiji before that. Now I'd like to talk to you, Doc. We all heard about the Ebola thing. A lot of it was second, third party. Incidentally, I've been at functions where your principal actually talked about it. But I'd like to hear from you what that was like.
First of all, I want to give glory to God for the gift of life. That I'm here today talking about what really happened last year, 2014, around July and August. It's not because I'm special, but God in His infinite mercy has decided to spare my life up to now. Because what I passed through, I don't get to have words to describe perfectly what happened to me as a survivor. But precisely on the 20th of July, when Patrick Sawyer came to Nigeria. But let me just start, even before then, Ebola had been around other countries, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and as a country, there were jingles in the radio. Okay, Ebola could come to Nigeria anytime. Considering the fact
there was that?
that it could come to Nigeria.
No, there were jingles on air.
Yes.
I never heard any until Patrick Sawyer
Well,
came.
I had the awareness. So, as a country, even if there was but at the level of the Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Health, there should have been something put in place to forestall in case this thing
Actually does come.
Yeah. But you discover that when it came to Nigeria, if not for the frantic effort by the staffs of First Consultant Medical Center, probably we will still be in the mess of Ebola up to now. But when it came to the airport, it slumped at the airport. That was Patrick Sawyer.
Yes.
And because of the retainership ECOWAS has with First Consultant Medical Center, that was the reason why it was brought to our center. And perhaps it could have gone to LUTH, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, but doctors were on strike at that time. You know, somebody who just collapsed, you don't look for where you have retainership, but rather the nearest hospital. LUTH,
especially since you don't even know why he collapsed.
Yes, of course. So when he came to the hospital on a Sunday, I wasn't on call that day. My friend, Dr. Morris Ibeauchi and Ada Igono, both of them were on duty that day. So they attended to him. Now, as a patient who understands the gravity of that disease, you should have divulged the fact that, or should have told the doctor the history of having a contact with somebody infected with Ebola virus. Now, being a very, a well-trained doctor, that's my colleague, Dr. Ibeauchi, he probed that story because naturally when you're treating a patient, when you want to take your history, as part of your biodata, you must ask for the country of origin. Those things are very important. Now, we've been hearing about Ebola in Liberia. So when he did mention that he was coming from Liberia, so I quickly asked him, have you been in contact with some, because mere getting the history of fever, vomiting, symptoms that were similar to what you have in malaria. So he asked him that particular Sunday, have you been in contact with somebody with Ebola virus? He denied, he said no. And that would have saved so many people if he had told us.
He said no.
He said no. Because that wouldn't have meant not treating him or sending him away. But he felt, I think that was what he was thinking, probably would send him away or treat him badly. So he came, he was admitted. So many people attended to him, still keeping the secret to himself. On Monday, I came to work. I was gisted. Ada was telling me, we had this patient admitted, blah, blah, blah. It could be Ebola virus, it could be this, it could be that. We said, okay. Now, we started, revising signs and symptoms about Ebola virus. We got everything. We discovered that most things he presented were consistent with what you find in Ebola virus. But there was one symptom rather, we were looking out for, which was hemorrhagia, that's bleeding tendency and everything. But that wasn't there, so we didn't have the conviction that, most likely it could be Ebola. But at the back of our mind, we were thinking most likely, but we never appreciated the degree to which you can fast contract Ebola virus. Because if you had understood that, we wouldn't have been treating him like a normal patient. So, but we were treating him like a normal patient, so the contact was already there from day one. And everybody who touched or entered his room or touched any surface in his room had already contracted the virus.
Wow.
So on Monday, 21st of July, Dr. Adadivo came. She was thinking about the same thing. As a physician, she there's a difference between a well-trained doctor. Everybody graduates from the school, but you will always show your skill. There will always be a difference. Somebody who is better, somebody who is
passionate
below
about
par.
what they do.
Yeah.
Passion
So
counts.
she demonstrated that. She didn't just say, okay, this is malaria, let's continue to treat until the fever subside. No. She said, let's be proactive. This could be Ebola virus. Meanwhile, we were not taking the necessary precautions to prevent ourselves from contracting if eventually to be Ebola virus. So we're still treating him like a normal patient.
Even with all your suspicion.
Yes, even with that suspicion.
Yeah.
Because the biohazard suit were not available. Plus, at the time the diagnosis was made, Federal Ministry of Health, even the Lagos State Ministry of Health did not provide us with, until when he died eventually, that they were to move the corpse out of the hospital. So we saw him, we interacted with him like a normal patient. Now, we did a particular test. It's called liver function test. That was to give us a clue as to whether there's something going on in the system other than malaria, because you do not expect naturally malaria infestation to result in elevated liver enzyme, to cause the enzyme released by the liver to come up. So when we got the result of that test, it was sky high. And there was this look, most likely this is a viral infection going on within him. And most likely this could be Ebola virus. So we sent the sample to Luth. And the preliminary results came out to be a possible Ebola virus infection. Because they did not have the tool to nail the diagnosis as of that time. So a sample was sent to Senegal. And by Wednesday night, the result came confirming Ebola virus. Everybody was devastated.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That means you had had him from Sunday to Wednesday without being sure what was wrong with him.
everybody had entered the room. Everybody had done all sorts of things. He had
And gone home.
yes, had gone home. So you can imagine the thoughts. People were now thinking, oh, who had I touched? Who had I shaken hands with? All those stuffs. We were disturbed that there was crisis in the hospital, and the CMD, we have the management in the hospital that is made up of the chief medical director who spoke at the last occasion we went for the Silver Bed Man of the Year award, Dr. A.S. Adadivo, Dr. Abaniwa, anesthesiologist. They always meeting, I think 2 to 3 times every day while he was still alive. So when the confirmation came out, before then, he was suspecting you had known about the diagnosis. So the next thing he said was to invoke the right of, I can leave the hospital at my will. So I want to leave the hospital. I'm supposed to come here for a conference in
Which
Calabar.
also means the man knew what was wrong with him.
Yes, very much. He knew what was wrong with him. So he said, I want to go and attend a conference. And nobody has the right to keep me in this hospital because I'm a diplomat. I want to leave. So we told him, Mr. Sawyer, you can't leave the hospital because of what you're suspecting.
Imagine if he had attended that conference.
Yeah, it would have been disastrous.
It would have been an absolute national disaster.
That's right.
Yes. And the caliber of people who would have been...
Who would have been affected at an ECOWAS conference?
Yeah, the caliber. So he said he would leave. And if you remember very well, the story did say that he called the ambassador, the Liberian ambassador to Nigeria, that they should call whoever is at the end of affair at First Consultant Medical Center to release him, or else there will be a legal battle. And the hospital will be sealed, the hospital will be in trouble for keeping the patient
Against his
Against his will.
against his will. So, but we're holding on the fact that if we release this guy, to cause a national disaster.
It would have.
Yes.
Of course.
So we held on to him. We were treating him. At the point, it was getting better. It was getting better, but suddenly things changed, and he died on, I think, on a Friday night. Early morning of Friday, he died. And that was when Dr. Ada even went there to certify him dead. He entered that place. A corpse infected by Ebola virus is
Still active.
very
After
deadly
death, yes.
compared to a living person carrying the virus.
Really?
Yeah, the virus is flourishing so much. So that was where she even entered without this biohazard suit. Because you have to confirm your patient dead, you have to check the pulse, the pupils, because you can't just...
That was where she contracted that.
Yes. You can't just say, by merely looking at the patient, that the patient is dead. or by not breathing. The patient could still have pulse and everything. So she had to get close to the patient to confirm him dead. So she did that in the toilet. He was sitting on the toilet seat, slumped and died on the toilet seat. And she went in and confirmed dead and wrote the report. Now, the next question is, let's wait for the next 21 days and start counting.
For
Praying
how
that
many of you?
fever will not spring.
How was that?
You said?
How was that for you?
Yes, for me, it was a moment of dejection. It was a moment of... I was very moody at that time because even though I was calculating, I'd gone home several times. I have a child, carried my baby, I've touched my wife, touched so many things in the house. But luckily, Ebola virus is not transmitted until somebody starts manifesting the symptoms. So that was what
Saved a lot of your
a lot
family.
of people, in my family. When I got home, my wife was feeling so bad. In fact, she regretted the day I wrote application to that hospital. But by and large, precisely on the 27th of July, I was at the hospital because we're still trying to tell some patient not to come to the hospital. We have a situation at hand. Don't come. Highly infectious disease just occurred in the hospital. So we don't want anybody to come to the hospital for now. So I was still going to work to attend to people. So that day, I slept in the hospital. In the middle of the night, Friday night, the State Ministry of Health, Lagos State, had already given us a chart and a thermometer to be checking our temperature. And that was fantastic. That was part of what helped curtail the Ebola virus in Nigeria. So I was checking. So that day, I checked my temperature. It was just above 37.5, which is the highest for normal reading. Then 37.8. So I was a little bit scared. The next thing that came to my mind was, when was the last time I treated malaria? Because I was trying to associate that fever
to remove it from Ebola to malaria.
Because that's the only way you can keep yourself confident that nothing will happen. Give yourself confidence. So when I went to the lab, I went straight to the lab. I told the lab guy, check my blood for malaria. In fact, when the result came out, it was capitally written, malaria parasite negative. Even at that, I didn't believe. I went ahead to take anti-malaria drugs. I said, this thing is still malaria. Because I didn't want Ebola to enter my bloodstream. Because when I was in 500 level, I was taught about hemorrhagic viruses. And the way it was described to us then, very scary. So in my mind, I was picturing, I'll start vomiting, start bleeding, all sorts of things. And the mortality is very high. I said, oh my God.
So when did you confirm that you had gotten the Ebola virus?
Yes, when I started feeling very weak, extremely weak, I had to go to a private hospital. That was very close to our place, but where I live. My wife suggested that I went to the place, but I told the doctor there that, see, I work at First Consultant Medical Center. As compared to what Soya did, I told the doctor
exactly what
happened.
So be very careful. But he was of the opinion that I'm not really showing the symptoms. That, okay, let's give you anti-malaria intravenously. Let's give you fluid and everything should be fine. So on that day, by midnight, I started stooling, seriously vomiting.
Wow.
So my brother is there. He came to me, my mother, everyone.
Brother, where are you? You went through that, eh? Okay.
So they came visiting at the hospital. When they came, I told them, I was just trying to be away as much as possible. So that, because I didn't want anybody to come down. If this thing was going to take me away, let it be me alone and nobody else. So I was there. It got to a time I had to call. We were given a number.
To call?
Yeah, to call. So when I called the
Who
number,
was the first to contract it, to know officially that they had contracted Ebola in First Consultant?
the first person was the nurse aide, Evelyn Uko, that was admitted first. That manifested the same, because she went there to clean his vomit.
Wow.
He went there to clean he urinated on the floor and stuff like that. So she was the first person. Ada the second person, and I was the third person. That same day, and that was on Sunday. 3 of us were admitted there. So I called the number. So they came around with the ambulance. It was like a drama. He just told me nobody will touch me again henceforth.
Cut on the
I was
place
like,
off.
is it this bad? Dr. David, the Caucasian that took care of us, said yes. Nobody will touch you, henceforth your family members, they are not permitted to touch you. I walked down the staircase, straight into the ambulance. It was a moment of terror for me because I was just feeling, like, okay.
You're not coming back again.
Yeah. Yes, exactly, sir. I got to IDH, very, very weak. When I got to IDH, it was very obvious to me that Nigeria was not prepared to take care of Ebola virus. The infectious disease hospital was in a state, nauseating state. Let me put it that way. I got to the ward. That added to my vomiting because the environment was dirty, the window very dusty. Because I do not blame them, but I still blame them because they should have prepared a place for a special case like that. But because it was an adult preparation, impromptu stuff, so they just had to put us somewhere first while preparing for another place. So we were put there for some days, vomiting and stooling, like 15 times in a day. I lost weight significantly, very lean. Yeah, very lean. And the lowest point in the isolation center was even when somebody died, one of the ECOWAS guys died in the hospital. I was even doing very fine, eating, still eating. All of a sudden, the guy just died. I just asked myself, oh, maybe...
Is this how it's going to be?
Yeah, the next on the death row. I was so bad. I said, God, just help me out of this. Until gradually, things were improving.
How many people did you lose while you were there?
Well, in the ward where I was, just, two. The guy, Jato from ECOWAS, and Dr. Adadevo. Those are the two people I saw passing through those terrible moments.
So you were in the same ward with Dr. Adadevo when she...
Yes, eventually we were in the same ward. Initially we were not in the same ward. She was put in the VIP, but subsequently she was brought to where others, so that, we had been working with her, and we were doctors. And it's always very difficult for people to put on that biohazard, to stay in that ward, to be looking after patients. So they just come for a transient, for a very short period of time, talk to us and quickly leave because they're sweating underneath. So they told us what to do. We were always looking after her until she passed out.
Wow. Okay, let me ask the very important question, which is what we are talking about here. Do you think you understanding what you went through, what your colleagues went through, and all that has happened, and all that could have happened, do you think that as a country and as a people that you have been appreciated?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Just like him, and I'll say no again.
I know Lagos State government did quite a bit in trying to ameliorate the sufferings and all that, and gave First Consultant some money because you guys suffered the stigmatization. My question is, as you're sitting today, have all of you collectively, First Consultant, doctors individually, been ushered to the Abuja level to be recognized? Has the nation, i.e. federal, done same for you?
No. What I rather got was, when I was traveling to the United States some couple of months ago, I got to a point where I think my visa was supposed to be checked or something. And the guy was asking me questions about where I work and stuff. So I had to go down to tell him, okay, I work at First Consultant Medical Center of Berlin. They said,
This is after you have been declared Ebola free.
Yes, long after. That was February. The next thing he said was, can somebody get me my...
Can you imagine?